Okay, so we've made some very good progress and we have fully tested our agent. It's communicating properly, it's in a conversational state, and it's correctly using the tools that we have defined for it to understand the materials needed to do the job and the rate card to use for the labor. Okay, now I want to integrate this with Twilio so that it works on SMS and later WhatsApp and then maybe even a widget on the client's webpage. But this video is all about just integrating with SMS. Okay. Now, for this to work with Twilio, we can't run the agent on our local computer. Okay. We have to deploy it to the internet so that it can talk to Twilio. Okay. So there's a couple of things we need to do. Let's talk about deployment. Okay. I'm just going to bring down a document to make it easier for me to explain this to you. Now, we have been using Codex to develop our agent. Okay. Now, at the moment, all of our code is sitting on our computer and we need to store this on what's called GitHub. Okay. Because once we store it on GitHub, then automatically we can make it available to the world once we connect GitHub to Vercel, right? Vercel is a place where it's like you can host your website. Okay. It's basically the cloud. Now, we haven't connected to the database yet. We're not storing our quotes anywhere in a database, but what we are doing, if I show you the way that I've configured this, is we have in our Google Sheets a quotes log, okay? And this is where we're going to be storing our quotes. It depends on the client. If they want it in a database, then you can charge them a little bit more to set up a database, but it's a lot easier to just use Google Sheets because then they've got access from their phone, from their iPad, from the computer. Just a lot easier. It's less work, right? If we have to use a database, then we have to create screens for them to access the database and look at the data, okay? Now, so we have used Codex to develop the system and we've used SendGrid to send out the email. We are not using N8N. There's no workflow in this at this point. Okay. And we're also not using Superbase. We're not storing anything in the database. What we are going to do now is connect GitHub and connect Vercel. GitHub's going to be a place where we store our code. And any time we make changes, we're going to push those changes to GitHub. And Vercel is where we are going to host our solution in the cloud so that it just runs automatically, right? We don't have to have our computer on. Twilio can talk to it. Email can talk to it. People can talk to it. It's all going to work automatically. Any change we make, for example, any change to the conversation will automatically be sent up to Vercel and therefore will automatically be made available to anyone that's using our system. What we haven't included in here is our proxy database, which is for us, that is Google Sheets. Okay, that's our database. Okay, so that's basically the tech stack that we are using. Our database is Google Sheets. Why is that our database? Well, that's where we have our rate card, cost of materials, and that's where we're going to store all the quotes that get sent out to the customer. Okay. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to GitHub and I've got a ton of repositories here already. I'm trying to create a new repository and I'm going to call it agent, tradie agent. Okay. Tradie agent. I'm going to make this private. Okay. And that's all I need to do. I'm going to hit on create. That gives me a link. There's a link there. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to come back over to Codex. I'm going to say, here is my remote repository. Okay. I'm going to say deploy the code to my repository. So it's going to now get all the code and push it to GitHub, right? You can see right now GitHub's empty. There's no files here. So once Codex finishes, then we will refresh GitHub and see if all the code files are there. So I'm just going to wait for Codex to do its job and then we'll refresh GitHub and see all the code there, okay? Okay, so Codex has said, look, it's pushed the code up to GitHub. All I'm going to do is I'm going to just hit a refresh. And there you go. You can see all the code is now here. Now, why is that important? Why do we do this? Well, we do this because we need to push this code to where we are going to host our code base on the internet. Okay, so that we can connect it to SMS, right? It can't be running on a computer. So now I'm going to go to a place called Vercel, which is where I host all my solutions. Okay, and I'm going to create a new project here. Okay, a new project, and I'm going to basically grab the, go back to GitHub. Grab the link. Might even have in my clipboard. Where's my link to? Let's just do a search for it. It was called Tradie Agent. Whoops, there we go. There's Tradie Agent there. I'm just going to grab the link to it. There we go. And let's see. Deploy. So it's just going to grab the code. Yep, perfect. And I'm just going to come down here and say deploy. You see, that's why it just makes it so much easier, right? So I've created a new repository here on GitHub. I've got Codex to push it all up there. Right? And then I've gone to Vercel and said, hey, go to my GitHub and just deploy that to the internet. Okay? So that's now done, right? I can I should be able to go back and see that somewhere. Hit a refresh. This is all my projects, right? I'm Vercel. There is our app, okay? Already deployed. Now, before I can test it, I need to put all of the environment variables, right? How to connect to my database, how to connect to Twilio, how to connect to my Google Sheet, all these things that I have to do locally, I have to put into Vercel as well, because Vercel doesn't know how to connect to Twilio and the email provider and the database. We're not using database anyway. The details of the Google Sheet. So all these details we put here in the local environment file. We also need to let Twilio, the Vercel, know. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create what's called an access token that allows my Codex to talk to Vercel and automatically configure all of the environment variables. Right, it's like an API key, so that I don't have to put in all the environment variables manually for Vercel to allow my hosted solution now to work. So let me create the access token in Vercel. I'm going to do it offline. Okay, so we can see that Codex has set up and pushed all those environment variables that we needed, all of our keys, okay, so that the application works. It's configured that in Vercel because I gave it the access token. Now, if you don't know how to get the access token in Vercel, just ask ChatGPT or ask Codex, which is what I did, okay. Now, it's saying that I need to change the app-based URL. It can't be pointing to local, right? So let me first bring down Vercel. Let's have a look at a couple of things, okay. So this is now our application deployed on the internet, right? You can see that Vercel's picked up the home screen. We'll test this in a moment. But if I go now to settings and environment variables, you can see these are all the different environment variables that we had to configure on our computer. How do we know we had to configure these? Because Codex gave us an example file, right? That it needs all these things, the Twilio detail, the SendGrid detail, the database detail, the Google Sheet details, all these things, right? And so we configure them locally in our .env local file, and it needs the same things when we deploy it in the environment. And so it's configured all that for me. I didn't have to go in here manually, put all those in, right? That's the beauty of having the access token and using Codex to do all this configuration for us. Now, one thing we need to do, as Codex has told us, is that this is pointing to a local computer, which is wrong, which is this. We need to set this up, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a domain for this app. Okay, so I'm going to go into domains, and I'm going to add an existing domain, and it's going to be, I'm just going to call it Tradie. Actually, let me quickly go to my website so I don't get any typos. All right, I'm going to basically just add a domain. I mean, this is just a demo, right? So Tradie agent, we would deploy this. If we were going to host it for the client, then we would create a brand new domain and host it for the client, okay? But this is just a demo app for the purposes of this teaching. So I am just going to put on a subdomain on my website like this. So this will be tradieagent.vibecodingacademy.club. Now I can use this, when I am talking to clients to show them a demo. So tradieagent.vibecodingacademy.club. Okay, so I'm going to save that. Now what Vercel will do is it will give me some settings that I need to configure in my DNS provider. Okay, so I'm going to go to my DNS provider and set that up now. So I just need to come into the DNS settings of my domain and just put in the values that Vercel has asked me to put in. And that's it, that's done. So at some point, this will refresh and this will be a valid configuration. Now, I need to basically copy this and see if I can copy it from here. Yep, I can. So I'm going to copy that because that's where our app is hosted. Okay. It might take a few minutes for that to propagate. I need to go back into the environment variables. Okay. And as per Codex, I've got to create this app_base_URL so that the system knows where the app is hosted. Just checking to see, so it's already there. So I am going to change the value. See, that's probably set to localhost, right? Which is wrong. So I'm going to edit and going to put in the correct place the app is hosted. And let's add HTTPS here. HTTPS. And save. Okay. So let's double check. Where is that? Is it at the top? App-based URL. Make sure it's correct. tradieagent.vibecodingacademy.club. Perfect. So that's now set up. And we need to redeploy because environment variables only take effect when you redeploy. So I'm just going to go to deployments. And there's only one deployment. I'm just going to say redeploy. And hit redeploy. And that's it. Okay. And then we should be able to test the application just like we tested it before, but now in the cloud, not on our local computer. Now let me just make sure the domain is working. So you can see this is now picking it up. So everything is now configuring and our agent is going to be accessible here. Now I also need to configure Twilio, which is not done yet. Okay, because we need to, if we look at the setup and look at what Codex has said to do, we need to set up this URL in Twilio configuration. So we'll do that in a moment. For now, I'm waiting for this to be configured so that I can test that the app has been deployed. And to test that the app has been deployed, we have to browse to Tradie Agent. Okay, let's see if that works. And there we go. Now our app is on the internet. Let's see if it's working. So we can say hello. And is it going to have access to our Google Sheet? Is it going to be able to send us an email? All those things, right? So I need some tiling done in the kitchen. Okay. All right. So I mean, the AI is certainly working. So that means it's got connection to GPT, whatever we're using, with our API key. How many meters? I'm just going to say it's 50. Okay. It's nice and quick. Now remember, we're not deploying this screen, but this is how we test. My name is Abdul, and email. Okay, let me leave that mistyping. Is e.abdulkhan@gmail.com. Let me leave that mistyping. See if it picks it up. There you go. You see, it's fixed it up, which is great. Will you be supplying the tiles? No, I need tiles too. Okay. Now, something that we should add in here is when the customer wants us, the trader, to supply the tiles, then we should say this is just an estimate and the price may change based on the selected tiles. But anyway, they're things that we will discuss with our client tradie to refine that conversation. So here we go. It's all working. It's accessing the tools. We can see on the right hand side. Now let me also make sure email is coming through, right? Because this is not sitting on our computer anymore. It's hosted in the cloud. So we need to check all that functionality, make sure it's all working. And yes, email is coming through. Everything's working as it was on our local computer. So now we can configure. I can close. This is where I set up my DNS. I don't need that anymore. I don't need, do I need Vercel? I don't think I need Vercel. I'll leave it open for now. Now what we need to do is go into Twilio and set this up. So I'm going to just say, I'm going to let Codex know that the custom domain is, and let me grab it from here. Let Codex know where it's deployed. And I have tested the app. Now ready to integrate with Twilio, right, for SMS. All right, so let's now see what, actually the setup probably has the information we need, what Codex tells us that we need to do. Okay, so in the next video, we will now integrate our app with Twilio.